What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in today's video, we're going to be having a look at day 2 of the Grand Party game mode. Now, this clip that you are watching is all pre-recorded. This was a pre-recorded clip that I did, and we're just going to have a look at some post-commentary. Now, in the first day, I opted to use the K-Dad team, and I wasn't completely happy with it just due to the fact that the team lacked a lot of bulk, and we actually did come up against some pretty difficult teams. Well, specifically, that final team was very, very hard. Now, one thing that we have learnt is that there are seemingly like some very basic CPU teams that you can go ahead and challenge. I don't know how easy or difficult they are to locate, but it did seem like a lot of people were able to locate those zero-win CPU teams, and this is the exact one that you guys are watching here for this first clip. But of course, the main thing here is we are using a different team. So the team that I actually almost basically lost to, well, I did actually lose to in the video yesterday, was a very similar team to what you guys are seeing here. I opted to try it out and see how it actually performed, and I was relatively surprised. It actually worked very, very well. So we've got the Dex Anniversary Super Tandem Luffy as our GP leader. Now, his effect requires you to build a couple of different teams. So first of all, you have a Dex-based team, which is actually pretty strong, and normally I would opt to use Kizaru on the team, but the fact that, you know, Luffy is built the way that he is, we have actually opted to use the Dex Lucci as our one of our mainline units because he has a great special, defense down, and huge damage. And the fact that he is a Dex unit and he also is a fighter means that he gets the double boost from the Luffy leader skill in Grand Party. So that's also the reason why we're using both Cat, Viper, and Dogstorm, because they're both Dex units that are also fighters. So, I mean, you could opt to use, like, what's his name? Who's the other fighter that just came out? Don Chinjiao, Pyro Rumble Rare Recruit. Also Legend Garp, who just came out. Another Rumble unit that is a Dex fighter-based character. Both of those units are honestly pretty solid. But, of course, this first team isn't really too complex. But another thing that this Luffy does is that he actually will also boost Psy units. So we get to build a Psy-based team with this Luffy as well, which is pretty good, as I'm a big fan of the Psy-based teams. So any opportunity that I get a chance to do that, we're definitely going to do that. Now, on this team, I'm opting to use Luffy Crew as one of my mainline characters. He is a fighter character, so he does get the double boost from Luffy, of course. But, you know, looking back at it, and specifically looking forward towards day 3, I'm going to try a different team once again, and I'm opting to use Goldie Roger, I think, in day 3 of the Grand Party. So with Goldie Roger, he has a pretty interesting kit. Well, the thing about Roger, right, and why he's so good is that his special ability not only does the 2000 fixed damage to all enemies, but he also applies a lot of debuffs, and those debuffs can actually help you survive, as he does. I think it's defense down, speed down, and attack down. So all of those components are actually really, really key. So looking forward to that for sure, to trying out that and see how that performs. A little concerned about it though, as we move deeper into the Grand Party, it's going to be a lot more challenging moving forward. So I think that a lot of people do have to be cautious about the way that they're team building and the opponents that they are choosing to take on. But of course, if you're able to find these zero-win computer teams, you probably won't have too many issues clearing these teams out, which is kind of good. Now, the other thing that this Dex GP skill, leader skill Luffy will also boost is fighter characters. Now, I hadn't really gone down the rabbit hole of fighter teams. I did make some brief videos when I was pulling Legend Ulti and when 6+ Katakuri came out. So it's interesting to see how that team has kind of performed in this video. Towards the end of this video, you'll see the fighter team actually, it goes so clutch towards the end as we take on a very, very difficult team. But you can see here with the first match of Grand Party Day 2, we're able to secure the victory, which is good. We end up getting our rewards, and then we can move on to match number 2. So looking at match number 2, once again, we basically get a bunch of the CPUs, so that doesn't really help us out that much. So we look at the secondary team here, which is again one of the CPU teams. It's pretty basic. Out of all the CPU teams, the one on the bottom row with the Uta as the lead is definitely the most scary of the three. So we're going to opt to take on the computer challenge once again. I believe, though, on the third round of matches, we do actually go ahead and reset to try and get an actual opponent, because while it is easy to get free wins, you know, at the end of the day, it's not as entertaining to watch. It's much more entertaining to see, you know, how we're able to compete against other teams of similar caliber, right? So looking into this team here, you can see it's basically like a pseudo slasher team, but it's not very optimal. Putting Smoothie on a slasher team isn't a good idea. Dory and Broggy, while they are good, you probably don't want to use them on your main line for your slasher team. Probably not the best idea. So I don't agree with that at all. I think that they could have definitely done a little bit better job in terms of CPU teams at least, but at the end of the day, they are essentially free wins. You can definitely still lose to these teams though, because Roger and Newgate are absolute monsters, being able to provide, you know, the 30% health cut to all enemies and then the damage through defense. Just Roger Newgate is obviously still going to be an issue no matter what team you're bringing. I don't remember which team it was. I don't know if you guys will see it in this video, but there was actually a team that I was coming up against, or a team that I was watching, where it was basically like a Psi-Free Spirit team, but it opted for Roger Newgate on the team as well, and that's just scary to think about, because Roger Newgate does receive a few buffs in the Grand Party, specifically because they're a slasher, so they actually receive level 4 CT increase straight up. So having a character, even that doesn't get a lot of boost, but a character as strong as that can be somewhat self-sufficient, providing huge damage to the opposing team, you definitely have to respect Roger Newgate and what they're able to provide. But of course, the Dex team here, we can tank a lot of the specials. We actually have pretty decent damage output. We have Moria, who launches relatively quickly, that can provide defense down, and if they have any quick enemies on their team, then we can provide extra defense down towards them. Lucci does defense down, and then we have Dogstorm, which can provide some huge attack and defense buffs. Luffy does good damage, Cat Viper does good damage, Lucci does good damage, even Moria at times can do good damage, and then Dalton on the bench as well looks really good. And you see I actually skip a little bit towards the end because I basically knew it was going to be a clean victory. Unfortunately, one character that I don't own yet is the Pirate Rumble Rare Recruit Pell. That character is incredible, and he has a very powerful special ability, a very good Rumble ability as well. Would love to add that to some of my squads. Same with Gaban, Pirate Rumble Gaban, who is a Psi Slasher who would have been very, very good in this block of Grand Party Pirate Rumble. Unfortunately, don't own him yet, so can't really abuse him too much. So looking at this secondary team for this, computer team, it is a fighter team, essentially. It's a fighter team. You've got a Garp character, you've got Sengoku. I opt for the GP burst here just to kind of speed up the process. So you see the Luffy, he does a really good amount of damage, but it is only to a single target. And then two characters on your team that are either Psi or Dex receive 100% CT decrease. So they get their specials fully charged. So that is a good thing, but at the same time, I don't remember which video it is, or it might be in the next clip. I opt to use the GP skill, and what happens is that effect to fully charge one of your character's specials can, for some reason, still target one of your characters that has a max skill. So I believe at one point I had like my Law at max skill, and then when I used the GP skill, I thought it would have targeted two other characters, so I would have had 3 specials ready to go. But it targeted Law again, and of course it didn't work because he already has max skill, and then another character got max skill. So you do have to be very cautious with that, but it is kind of cool that you can be in a situation where, like, even if you're in a real pinch, right, and you only got 2 characters left, and you can just use the GP skill to do a bit of damage to a target, as well as making sure that both your characters are charged. It is pretty cool. It's probably not the best GP skill ever, but looking forward into other GP skills with Goldie Roger, that's the one I'm most looking forward to using, because that GP skill looks to be probably just straight up the best GP skill in the game. The halving stats and the fixed damage to all targets is so good. So now that we've taken on the 2 computers, we move on to the 3rd challenge, and we can see we actually find a little bit more difficult teams here in the Grand Party. So trying to decide which kind of teams we want to take on. I believe we do take on that Roger Whitebeard team. Uta teams are always scary because that Uta GP skill, while you can only use it once per quest, I believe it does like 4,000 fixed damage to like 2 targets 3 times or something like that. It's a pretty good effect actually, especially if you use it at the right time. Like if you see a lot of the enemies have really low HP, you pop the skill, you get a bunch of KOs. It can be definitely a little bit of an issue there. But just trying to make sure that I find the right targets, and here we go. We're going to try and take on this Uta squad, which is going to be pretty difficult of course, but you guys will see how this one kind of progresses. So we are up against a pretty difficult team here. You see that this is essentially like a driven quick team. So you got Tezora with the CT increase, you have a Kainu which can do severe health cuts, Kaido with the severe defense down, and Shiki's actually a really interesting call. I think I was planning to do a showcase for Shiki in Pirate Rumble at some point, but the issue with that is that he had a really high CT and I really wasn't comfortable in using him in content. But his effect, he has a 70% chance to action bind characters for 6 seconds, right? Remember, it's a 70% chance. You guys will see what happened in just a moment. But he also does fixed damage, he does defense down. It is pretty cool, but 70%, it's fine, right? But you guys will see that we take a lot of damage very, very quickly here. And here you go with Shiki, 70% chance of action bind, and he locks 4 of our characters. So that is really unlucky, and it means that all those characters that did get action binded go down to the bottom of the order. So that really pegs us down a lot. But it does also mean that now that, you know, once they are all unbinded, they'll all come up back to back after each other. So at this point, I was actually kind of frightened. With such low HP, I was really, really scared. But at least we have Dogstorm, which normally doesn't do damage in a lot of teams. But because we're up against a quick base team, Dogstorm will do damage. And here will come here. He'll go ahead and buff our team, give us attack and defense. Lucci came in just a moment ago to give defense down. We got Moria, who does even more defense down, and he does pretty solid damage. And then we have Cat Viper, who does so much damage towards a quick base team. He does his first wave and then a second hit as well because we have Dogstorm on the team, and then we get the win. 8-0 victory, no characters lost, despite the fact that all of them were below like 20% HP, but we still got the victory. Now, the second team here is like an int-driven team, and if you see an int-driven team with like Uta, Blackbeard, Kid, etc., and they've also got Uta as the GP leader, yeah, that's going to be really, really difficult to get through. Most of those teams that are int-driven with this similar structure, they will typically always beat like a Psy-Free Spirit team. They're just incredibly strong, very bulky, very difficult to deal with. Moria, obviously a huge problem, halving stats, and then you got Uta that can halve stats, and you got Smoker on the bench, you got Dory Broggy, which can debuff strikers, so if you're using Kuzan or you're using Yamato, debuffing those characters obviously is not fun. So this team is pretty rough, and we actually do get defeated, I believe, in this team, which leaves us in the final match, which is, it goes down to the wire for sure. Rebecca coming in early to get some defense down. We do have the GP skill ready to go. I can't remember exactly where I launched it. This might have been the team where I actually gone ahead and used the GP skill, but it actually still targets a max special character. We'll see what happens here. The halving of stats did hit Yamato and Odin, which I'm not really that fond of, but luckily it still did a pretty good amount of damage. And once again, we got really unlucky here, where for some reason Odin launched his special only against one character because of his horizontal range, which really, really hurts us there. Uta launching the GP skill. I am launching my GP skill right now, so I thought at this point would be a good time to do it. We launch it, it does some damage. Unfortunately doesn't get a KO, but it does target Law and the Straw Hats for the CT reduction, which doesn't help us out at all. The halving of stats and then damage from Uta is just too much for us to handle right now. Damage from Broggy is pretty severe as well. I believe Blackbeard's coming in now, who does defense down and then does his special damage, which is obviously a big problem to deal with too. And at this point, yeah, it's just a pretty clean victory for the opposing team. It really, really sucks for us here. There's just no way for us to come back. Should have skipped it at this point. But with that, it leaves us with one team left. Now, I believe the opposing team is a Psy team, and the team that we have is our fighter team. So, the fact is that in yesterday's video, we were in a situation where I thought the Psy team was going to dominate the fighter team, and the fighter team pulled out a victory. So, I was really hoping that potentially this time around, we were going to get a victory. So, let's see what happens here. So, we've got Katakuri, Jinbei, Jack, Ulti, and who's who. So the reason why this team is so strong is because you've got a lot of bulk. Fighters get a lot of buffs in this in this block of Grand Party. Luffy buffs Sai units, Dex units, and fighters. So Katakuri gets a lot of buffs from this team, which is really, really good. But hopefully we're launching Jack to get the double health cut, the defense. Jinbei, we really wanted him to launch because he'll inflict level 16 attack down. Like, that is absurd amounts of attack down, which allows you to tank even more hits, of course. Ulti does incredible damage. Who's Who, if you get him to launch early, can do damage through defense, which is obviously huge to see. But we also, because we are using so many legends, it means that we don't have a lot of space for other Pirate Rumble characters. So we got Luffy's GP skill, which fully charges only Dex and Sai units. So I actually kind of make a mistake there. Really should have waited until Katakuri launched his special and then went ahead and used the GP skill. Odin going ahead and locking the Jinbei and the Jack. So we really can't get the Jinbei to launch, which is super unfortunate. And you see the Roger Whitebeard knocking out those two characters in the Jinbei and the Jack. So at this point, I thought we were going to straight up lose because we lost all of our bulk. The only thing that we have left is offensive capabilities with Katakuri, Whitebeard, Ulti, and Who's Who. Katakuri comes in though and hits like an absolute truck, knocking out 4 opposing characters there, which was absolutely absurd. And then we have Ulti, who obviously launched her special. She does a lot of damage too. And we got Whitebeard and Who's Who. Here's Who's Who. Unfortunately, the timer was at a really bad spot where he didn't get to do his damage through defense. Luckily, still had the 2 support characters on the back, which gave us more fodder for the enemy to target. And at this point, it was a 5v2. I thought for sure we had it in the bag, no doubt in my mind. I just actually went ahead and skipped it because there was no way for us to lose. We had 3 legends still left to their 2 characters remaining. And those 2 characters they had left didn't really have a lot to offer. But that's pretty much it. That is day 2 of the Grand Party. I think we'll be back with day 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.